What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast, a proud member of the Eurostep Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. As always, I am your host, Numac, and as always, joining me for another episode, a training camp episode, a shareholders meeting episode, is my co-host, Jordan Chesky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
Ooh, it is the official start of Packer season. Not really, but kinda.
Kinda.
I don't know what. I have certainly felt a little wind in my sail. We're past the halfway mark of summer. Packers are back. It's just, football is life.
You've also had a typical Wisconsin day, and that summer might have started today with how hot and humid it is. But we also
Yes.
got a cool morning with thunderstorms for 15 minutes, followed by sunshine the rest of the day.
Hmm.
It was a hot day today. It
A
was,
smorgasbord.
but alas, as we had mentioned, as Jordan mentioned, training camp started today. But that's just a little tease. We'll talk about training camp later. We got to get to the news that Mark Murphy shared at the shareholders meeting because there was surprisingly a lot of news. A lot of news there.
There was.
Um, the Packers, will jump right into it. Packers announced that Josh Sitton and Jordy Nelson are going to be inducted into the Packers Hall of Fame this year. Uh, Josh Sitton, notably the starting, I believe it was left guard or right guard, for sure a guard, for the Packers from 2008 until 2015.
20s.
2015. Um, Won a Super Bowl with them, obviously, during that tenure, and was pretty much a mainstay of the Packers line to go with Brian Balaga and what's the other guy's name? TJ Lang throughout
Yep.
their tenure as an offensive line in the early days of the Aaron Rodgers era. So, um, in total, from uh, 2012 to 2015, when they let him go, he didn't miss a game. But looks like he only missed. He played in his rookie year. He played 11 games, but then 16, 16, 14, then 16 through the rest of his career in Green Bay. So, definitely a an Iron Man of sorts when it came to his spot on the line.
Yep.
Made a Pro Bowl in 2012. Second team All Pro 3 years in a row in 13, 14, 15 to go with a couple more Pro Bowls before ultimately. I think he was.
He was a camp casualty,
Yes, he
I believe.
was. I'm
That was
looking
a
at the
big
transactions. Yeah,
a big
they released him on September 3rd, so right before, well,
I
on
think he
cut
was a
day.
cut
Yeah,
day, yeah.
and
That
then
was a big uh touch point
yeah.
in a lot of things
Well,
that
that was
we're
kind of like the same way with TJ Lang, the same way with Brian Balaga when it all happened that same way. So, um, obviously finished his career with the Bears for 2 years and then 1 year with the Dolphins. So, glad to hear that he's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. Certainly worthy. Four-time Pro Bowler, one-time Super Bowl champ, and like we said, pretty much a mainstay of that line through the heydays of the Aaron Rodgers era. But then is the true star, Jordy Nelson. Jordy Ray Nelson, nickname on Pro Football Reference, White Lightning. So take that with a whoever want to take it. Um, just like Josh Sitton, first one time Super Bowl champ, obviously, and then a Pro Bowler. Won the 2016 AP Comeback Player of the Year, which makes sense after he had the ACL injury in the preseason. My
Mhm.
heart in 2015, I believe that was.
Yep.
Career numbers with the Packers: 550 catches, 7,848 yards, and 69 touchdowns. Pretty good, if I do say so myself. He was the obviously the favorite target of Aaron Rodgers before Devontae Adams. So obviously a classic football player for the Packers, a fan favorite always. I know I have his jersey. I'm sure many others do as well. Um, Glad to hear he's getting inducted. What do you think of Jordan Nelson? There, Jordan.
Um Kind of in the same boat as Sid, and I think it's nice closure, especially when, you know, not that they are the ones propagating this, but when they're talked about as, they Packers moved on from them. They cut them 1 year early rather than 1 year late and all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. And what it means, we know what that means for the team and stuff like that, and how they've been able to replenish and continue being a successful team for multiple years and decades and eras and all that stuff. But when you're a player, it's a different feeling,
Mm-hmm.
clearly. But it's good to kind of have closure in this way of like, you know, they're honoring their Packers career, the team that they played most of their snaps, if not, not all of them, but like the vast majority of them, and played really great. We're on some great teams, and even obviously a Super Bowl winning team, but some good teams that didn't make the finish line or near it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's just it's nice that the Packers do this because it just reinforces how great they've had it for a long time,
Right.
and it's still something that should be honored and recognized, years after these guys leave.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to hear some bonkers stats?
Yes,
Jordy Nelson never had a 100 reception career or 100 reception season. The closest he came was in 2014 when he had 98 catches on 151 targets for 1,500 yards and 13 touchdowns.
that's
Otherwise, right. Otherwise, he
huh.
from 2011 to um, 2014. Or I'm sorry, skipping 2015 when he got hurt. Um, he had 68 catches for 1,200 yards and 15 touchdowns. 2012, he had a down year. I think he missed about 6 games. Um, but then 2013, 85 catches for 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns. 2014, 98 and 15, 100 touchdowns and 13, or I'm sorry, 1,500 yards and 13 touchdowns. 2016, 97 catches, 1,250 yards, and 14 touchdowns. Led the league in touchdowns that year. But like, that's an insane stretch of football for Jordan
Oh
Nelson.
yeah,
And like we know, it's kind of easy to forget how dominant he was as a receiver, just because it's been almost a decade now. But geez, Louise, like the yards per catch on 98 catches in 1,500 yards is insane. He had he averaged 95 yards a game. That's so
that's crazy.
crazy
Seventh all time in yards per game, by the way. That's the other thing. So you
for the
mentioned his
Packers.
career numbers, yeah, for the Packers. So he's fourth and five with 550 catches, sixth with 7,848 receiving yards, third in touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
He missed a year in his prime
Mm-hmm.
doing that, and didn't really pop until like the Super Bowl year.
Until 2011,
It was,
really.
it was. I was gonna say it was the year after that he really like.
The Super Bowl year, he only started 4 games. Had 45 catches for 500 yards, 600 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So he really, like you said, he really didn't pop until 2011 when the entire offense exploded.
We're talking about like 4 to 5 seasons where he just chewed up ground literally
Hmm
with his cleats.
he had as many touchdowns in the playoffs as he did in the regular season in that Super Bowl run.
That's nuts.
Yeah, he kind of came to life in that run,
Yeah.
and then, like you said, exploded. But yeah, talking about he was third in touchdowns despite not popping into year 4. He didn't. He only started 6 games his first 3 years. He played in um,
Well, because you're thinking too at that time it's
Driver and who? Greg Jennings.
Jennings
Jennings, yeah.
and
Talk about someone that probably won't get into the Packers Hall of Fame with all the
I
stuff.
want to say he's actually in it.
Am I chalked?
I think he's in it.
I don't know why this is uh escaping my brain at the moment. Oh yeah, sure enough.
He
Last year.
is.
Last year. I don't remember that. That just escaped my mind. That's you know what? That's actually really surprising given how much crap he talked since leaving.
Hey, guess what?
He deserves it. But man,
Wait, you think he deserves it?
for
Because I was gonna
his
say maybe he's right.
for no for like his
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
for like his stats.
Yeah.
and like his importance to the team and everything. Because like he was
Oh yeah.
obviously the number one wide receiver on that Super Bowl run. So, but still, like I just totally I don't even remember that happening. That's crazy. That was a year ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll happen probably in one of the preseason games around there ish time, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I think actually the Greg Jennings one was like August of last year, so I would
Yeah,
assume it's the
the
same.
YouTube from the Packers says August 6th. So maybe around family night.
Oh, that yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good
family night's
call.
August 5th this year, which is a Saturday. Um, and then I imagine it's probably either that Sunday or Saturday afternoon or something like that.
Mhm.
So, anything else on the future Packers Hall of Famers?
No, okay. Other than congrats.
Congrats. um, now we get to the real meat on this bone. The comments from Mark Murphy. Um, I guess pretty good segue. Murphy mentioned that they're going to retire Aaron Rodgers' number. Um, quote, at the appropriate time, which I think is all you can really ask for. We've
Yes.
been not an anti Aaron Rodgers podcast, as you all know who have listened. We just didn't want to talk about all the crap that had surfaced since the trade. But now I think this is an appropriate time to say, hey, like, yeah, this is, I think most of the organization's probably in the same boat that they can recognize his importance to the organization in history, but they don't care about the day to day. Andy Herman had a good tweet today regarding a certain New York Jets quarterback contract renegotiation and signing. And this is like, I don't care about the numbers. I don't care about the stats. The only number I care about is that 65% snap rate or snap
Yeah,
usage.
snap
So,
usage. I think too, from there's more quotes from it that I'm sure you might share. But it sounded like when Rogers was brought up at the shareholders meeting. I've not seen video of it. I've only read notes and everything like that. But it sounded like there was some booze that Murphy quelled pretty quickly by, segue into being one of the greatest Packers of all time and complimenting him on his 18 years of being with the team and all that stuff.
mhm.
So it was like, it could have easily been like, I don't know, an ugly moment, but they kind of turned it into fan service, which again, rightly so, because it
Right.
doesn't. However, things ended and just how things were for the last couple of years doesn't take away from just how remarkable of a career that he had with this team. So you take it for what it was.
Right. And it's much similar vein as to how Brett Favre left. Like everyone was like some people were gonna be upset and be pissed, but the player is still critical to the success of this organization. You can't just shoo that under the rug as soon
Yeah,
as he leaves. Like you still need to recognize it, which I'm glad Murphy did and will do in the future. For what it's worth, Favre's number was retired the same year he went into the NFL Hall of Fame. So I'm sure they'll do both. They'll probably handle it the same exact way they handled Favre's. He'll get his number retired the first year he's able to have it retired once he hits that sort of 5 year mark after
yeah,
he retires. So in about 7-ish years, we can talk about a
2030.
oh, it's not a real year.
No,
Just like the Bucks pick in 2031, it's a fake year. It's just not around. But then another great segue to go from one Packers QB to the other. Mark Murphy said he was pleased with the reaction and the buzz on around the Love era. Quote, I think that's one of the reasons that people are excited is because there is just, I don't know if I'd call it uncertainty, but we're in a much different team. We're a much different team than we were last year. We'll be younger, and I'm optimistic. So I think Mark Murphy, Jordan, did a great job of exemplifying and just speaking out yours and I's opinions on this season and Jordan Love in both 2 sentences.
yeah, I think that is the big theme of, as we'll continue getting into, is just kind of, I don't know. There's something very welcoming in this change. It doesn't feel like how it did with Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of animosity, obviously, towards where it was. Plus, I mean, part of that was that bled into training camp. You know,
Right.
a lot of things, the timing of when things changed over certainly um, have allowed things to kind of cooler and people, Rodgers doing his thing, the Packers are doing their thing. So it's kind of like, you've had a lot more time to kind of live with the changing of the guard kind of thing rather than like at the time, Favre is trying to make this, last ditch effort to come back and, Ted
Right.
Thompson and company are holding the line.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think the edges have been smoothed out a little bit considering that the trade happened pre-draft. And we've had May, June, and now most of July to kind of come to terms with the split. But I know that Mark Murphy's not the only one, and the rest of us fans aren't the only one excited. Roswell Douglas went on a podcast or a YouTube video, whatever you want to call it. I think it was a YouTube video, but I'm not sure if it is a podcast as well. With Darius Slay, and Peter Bukowski posted the tweet quoting Roswell Douglas about Jordan Love, saying, "quote I know Love last year, he was cooking us in practice sometimes. He would hit us in the pocket with no looks, everything and everything. And I was like, oh my goodness." And then to continue it, Razul's message to Jordan Love was, quote, "We don't need you to be A-Rod. We need you to be you. We need you to be you because you are enough." And like, end quote. Man, it's just the excitement around the team, around Jordan Love is so exciting. Like, I know you're not going to find public displays of negativity about Jordan Love from the team. You just won't see it. But I feel like I've seen so many comments like this throughout the offseason that it's just cool to see the team rally around a guy they know can compete.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I again, I don't want to blow more than or show more than we've let on, but like there's just kind of like things that are emerging with the start of camp and everything like that that is really exciting. And it's like again, part of where we came from and just the kind of just what's the word, atrophy of like just letting things run its course. There's
Mm.
part of that where it's like, yeah, it's good to like get run the end of the line, but like it can be painful, especially how last year was
And it was
in a lot of
painful.
ways. Yes, it was. Post London game that was
Right.
very just like, what the hell is going on?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I just like the fact that we are learning more about Jordan Love than we have ever had to, and that just comes with the spotlight being on you and someone as big as Aaron Rodgers is, like that's not going to take it up anymore or be used in a pejorative way of like, hey, they drafted this guy to get rid of you, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, it's a lot more nuanced of like how it is and how it will be moving forward, even with the unknown of like, okay, you're the quarterback of the future, but you have to earn it still too.
Right. Absolutely. He definitely still needs to earn it, but I think, and Peter Bukowski said this as well, and something I agree with, that it is so valuable to have the high level support of his veteran teammates and having his back. Like I
Yeah.
think going back to when I forget what it's called now, but it's the midweek interview with the Packers players that Tom, whatever his name is from Packers Wire, from the Sentinel. I forget his name. My apologies.
Tom Silverstein.
No, it's the TV guy. I forget his name. I'm pretty sure he works for WSN. Anyway, he does a midweek Packers interview in Green Bay with players. When I was a kid, it was with Amon Green and I think like Donald
Oh,
Driver and others. They
Tim
were,
Van Voren.
yeah,
Is that
him,
who you're thinking
Tim,
of? Yeah,
Tim,
yeah.
yeah, not Tom, Tim. Um, but last year he did it with Devontae Campbell. And I don't know if you remember this, Jordan. Like it was like week 8 or 9, and he was talking about Jordan Love and how he's ready to lead. And like we talked about that on this podcast in the middle of the season. Like it's been like it's not just coming out of nowhere because Aaron Rodgers is gone. Um, Devondre mentioned it last year. Aaron Jones mentioned it right away in the offseason this year. Like I wouldn't expect anything but support from Aaron Jones. It's kind of the guy he is, as we've seen. But it's a lot of these veteran guys rallying around their new QB, and it's just cool. And I know you read the piece by Ryan Wood talking about just Jordan Love's sort of rise to becoming a starter and being an integral part of this Packers team and offense.
Yeah, I mean, again, naturally, it kind of segues into like just where we are with Love and how people have embraced him and everything like that. Um, First of all, could not recommend it more highly. Like, it's really, it goes deep into like Jordan Love's athletic career. Really, like it spans from high school, pre-high school to college. Talks to one of his, I believe, the defense coordinator of the Aggies at the time that has since moved on, and just observations about how he leads, the details about Matt LaFleur kind of not badgering him, but like wanting to know more information about him before the Packers drafted that year. And obviously, again, it was COVID, so it wasn't a normal drafting year at all. Um, Things were very on the fly, and the normal practices were shuttered, and it was just good insight of just like how kind of transfixed I think LaFleur was, and people in charge were with Love, and just what they saw in him, and kind of asking questions of like, would he be willing to accept the role that he ended up having? And obviously the answer was yes. And goes into his quarterbacks coach, who I believe, if I read correctly, he also helped mentor Romeo Dobbs. So there was kind of a natural chemistry there that has obviously been talked about quite a lot going into camp and over the summer too. So like, I mean, I again, it everything that you wanted to know about Jordan Love, it's in this piece. It's so good. Goes into like how he became a quarterback and just how his process and just how he picks up on things, and talks about watching film from the Chiefs game of having 3 days to prep and trying to make good of his first NFL start, and we know how that game went, but the Packers are still in and all that stuff. So it's like, I don't know, I am missing a lot of details that are from there. It talks about his process changing over it going into year three, and how they rebuilt the way he is throwing. It starts from the platform and all that stuff. So like, again, it just oodles and oodles of information of just how consummate of a professional that he is. But again, one of the big themes is just how quickly he took the role about like bringing people together, bringing vets, rookies, whatever, whether it's wide receivers or it's Aaron Jones coming out to California, or Devondre Campbell, people from the defense, everything like that,
Mm-hmm.
and everything's just kind of been natural to him. And I think that is very positive for the kind of goodwill that I feel like we're on the cusp of feeling with this team, because truly there are no expectations, and that's when you can kind of make waves. But it's really positive and good to see Love not embrace it, but like, I
Come out of
don't
the
know.
shell.
Yeah, like I think that's ultimately this why this is so exciting is like, I'm sure he's been wanting to do all this for a long time, but
Mm-hmm.
I do think that the moment is finally here where he can feel like, oh, I'm actually ready for this moment. It's not too big for me anymore.
Right. Um, Talking about Matt LaFleur talking to Jordan Love during like the draft process and everything. I kind of want to like not segue away from Jordan Love, but kind of add on that everyone was talking about how like this is like the true Matt LaFleur offense is going to come alive now. I still think that, but like I thought it was interesting that he answered it in like a press conference this week that he doesn't think that we're going to see like a really different playbook than what they had with Aaron Rodgers. Um, I'm kind of curious as to how that's going to play during the season because like I think there'll be a lot less audibling, obviously, but I'm curious to see if that's actually true or not because I don't really believe him. I think that might be kind of some smoke just to not have teams expect the unexpected kind of thing. But I think with how he's handled himself in years 1 through 3, that Jordan Love has been able to run this offense quite well. And I guess efficiently would be the best way to put it. I
Yes.
don't think there's going to be a lot of wildness or uncertainty that happens a lot throughout the season. I think there'll be mistakes, without a doubt, overthrown balls, underthrown balls, maybe bad reads. But I think that this offense might be a well-oiled machine that moves slowly. Is how I'm gonna put it. Like there'll be some hiccups. You won't see 35-point
What's
games, but
what's the LaFleur phrase? Um,
you lost me.
I know there's a phrase that he used a lot. It's something along the lines of like unpredictable improvisation or something like
Play
something.
random.
It's essentially that is what he's kind of saying. Um, but I agree with you. I think it's a lot of timing things. I don't think there's a system that he wants to play,
hmm
and I'm sure we'll see some, Love wants to cook and stuff like that. But I don't think that is how they ultimately want to play. And again, this isn't just a Jordan Love thing. I think this is going to be a big, we'll see tenets of what we have seen when Aaron Rodgers was under center, but you have a young wide receiver room
Yeah,
and young
I
tight
think
ends.
I think youngest in the league.
I actually have a stat for you.
I love stats. Hit me with the
Bill
numbers.
Barnwell. This is from a piece from Bill Barnwell today on ESPN.com. Talking about, I believe the conceit of the piece was 20 players that had the most pressure this season. Jordan Love is
Mm.
among them. Um, Jordan Love will be throwing to what projects to be the second youngest group of wide receivers and tight ends since 1990. Love will be a part of the most inexperienced quarterback room the NFL has seen since 2008, when Aaron Rodgers took over for Brett Favre.
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yep. And
Another.
guess who was there that moment and to now? Brian Gutekunst.
He's been there.
Yeah.
Don't tell Aaron Rodgers that. According to Rodgers, he wasn't there.
He was in the Jairs room eating Cheetos.
um, but
No
yeah,
free
it's
ads.
like to do off on the tiniest little tangent. The amount of similarities between Love and Rodgers' career is it's too creepy. It's like they got bored of the storylines and said, "All right, we're just gonna repeat this one." They had success in the past. Let's try this plot point again. See if it hits. Um, to go with expectations, sort of Jordan Love from the organization this year. Murphy said at the shareholder meeting that they expect to not even know what they have in Jordan Love until halfway through the season. Similar um, in way to Aaron Rodgers' first year. Quote, comparing it a little bit to Aaron's first year, his first year as a starter, I'd say at least half a season. Even though I think we ended up with a losing record, we saw enough of Aaron that year to know we had something special. So I think that's just kind of going to be the company line from the Packers, and I think it should be from fans as well. Is that the week to week variance for Jordan Love isn't going to be as important as what we see by the end of the season.
Yeah, and important context that I believe we've talked about before when we were just talking about like Jordan Love's contract decision when that was a big thing before the reworked contract. Rodgers was extended during his uh, essentially his first starting season.
Mm-hmm.
So they saw enough of him to sign him to like a 6 year, $60 million contract or whatever it was.
Right.
So, not that Jordan Love is going to do the exact same, but I do like that, you know, again, it's not pumping the brakes, but I think it's just we all know where Jordan Love is at. And
Right.
that was a big part of like whether it's Mark Murphy or it's Goody or it's LaFleur, it's like you just want him. They're talking about his preseason snaps and talking about trying to get him as many reps as you can, but knowing that you obviously want him to be protected too, because he's, the big asset now.
Right.
And there's just so much that he could soak up and learn and really just kind of, get the ball rolling with. But that's where again it's exciting to kind of like no, it's like we know that they're going to be growing pains. Like it just happens, and we have been spoiled by having two of the greatest quarterbacks of the modern era of the NFL
All time. Yeah.
replace each other or one replacing the other.
Right.
So yeah, that's it's good to kind of just put out the company line of like just
Just wait.
take it easy. Yeah, just wait and see.
Everybody just wait.
Yeah.
Chill out. Um, for context, Aaron Rodgers' first year as a starter, 341 completions, 4,000 yards, and 28 touchdowns to 13 picks. So, by all means, a pretty darn good year. Like he, it was his pretty much lowest on a full season. He had in 2010, the Super Bowl year, he had played one fewer game and had about 100 less yards. So, for all intents and purposes, his lowest um, amount of yards. Until 2019, he had just over 4,000, 4,002, up until um, this past year when he threw for
Mm,
3,600 yards. 3,800 yards in 2015, but um, that's surprising. I feel like that was weird because
yeah.
they went 10-6. I feel like that might have been a down year for him. Regardless, if Jordan Love goes out there for 4,000 yards and 28 touchdowns, I need another thumb because two isn't going to be enough to point upwards. There we go. Jordan assists me with the thumb, so we're all good. They're all good there. Um, I'm trying to see a couple more things from the shareholders meeting before we get on to some media notes as well as some training camp news. I think the only other thing that's worth talking about here is the Packers acquiring Formation Inc.,
I was
the
waiting.
people who make the cheeseheads. So,
Based in Milwaukee.
hmm um, I wonder how that'll go for the rest of the cheese attire market, particularly the bras and the other not so family friendly attire for the cheese stuff. But
Yeah.
I think that just kind of makes sense for them to buy it.
Big news and big cheese. Yeah.
You gotta watch out for big cheese.
Yeah, you gotta watch it out. That's a lot of gargonzola.
Jesus Christ. So, Rohan teased that on Eurostep this week, so we had to talk about it for at least a couple seconds. So, there you go, Rohan. Hope you appreciate it, buddy. Um, moving on to Tuesday media notes. Um, obvious kind of stuff from Matt LaFleur, but Eric Stokes and Rashawn Gary will be starting the training camp on the physically unable to perform list, which was planned for them. Rashawn coming off of his ACL injury, and Eric Stokes coming off of his ankle and Liz Frank injury, I believe it was. That
Yeah.
ended up he needed surgery for both. So hopefully they're ready for week one. He said if everything goes well, they could be activated off that and kind of ease their way into it, similar to how David Bakhtiari did last year as well. But I would imagine we'd probably see them, if things go all correctly, probably by week four ish. It might even make sense to hold off until week six after the bye week to get them acclimated if they don't practice until training, if they don't practice through training camp. But
Yeah.
regardless, we'll see them hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Actually, I think it was Bill Huber of Packer Central, the SI site.
Mm-hmm.
Stokes, if all goes well, Stokes would start ramping up midway through camp.
Okay.
So, you know,
Ramping up
that
to
doesn't,
practice or ramping up to get back into playing shape? Do you know?
I believe it was practice, but I'm not quite
Not quite
sure
sure.
about that.
That's fine. I
But
was just curious.
it also, again, it doesn't guarantee that they're going to be ready for the start of the season.
Right. Exactly. Um, Matt LaFleur likened the start of this year to the start of his first year in Green Bay, talking about how the talent of the youth is exciting. and quote, how quickly, or saying the biggest challenge was quote, how quickly can we acclimate these young guys and how can we come together as a team, which I think again is going to be just the biggest thread throughout this year. Getting a lot of consistency across this entire team, both on offense and defense, is going to be the biggest thing, but particularly on offense, because that's where most of the
Yes.
young players are between Watson, Dobbs, Toure, Jaden Reed, Luke Musgrave, Josiah DeGuara,
Wakes.
and Tucker Craft, Dontavian Wicks, Jordan Love. Like, the only like veterans are the line and Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, that are kind of like the veteran leaders on that offensive side.
Yeah. That's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot. Um, the Packers brought back 13 offensive linemen from last year's active roster in the practice squad. But it's entirely possible they bring back or they just go into the year with the same ten they did last year, which was interesting to see people talk about because it kind of is um, how it looks and how it kind of feels with given how they've handled the line the past couple of years. They've drafted a couple every year, but they just kind of stuck with the same 10
And
this year.
yeah.
Oh, this
Well,
year
in this year they didn't.
yeah, this year they didn't. You're right.
Yeah. Which is a big deviation.
Right, right. Gunakuts commented on how it is worthy to have the depth on that spot in the roster. Quote, it helps training camp immensely because when you get to the second and third groups out there in preseason games, being able to protect the quarterback and run your offense, that's very important. It helps us evaluate everything. I think when you struggle there, it's tough to evaluate with some things. Makes perfect sense. If you're really trying to get a good look at, say, Danny Elling or Sean Clifford, if they're scrambling the entire time and can't actually sit in the pocket and throw, what
Yeah.
what good are you looking? What sort of things are you evaluating besides him being able to escape a pass rush?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing too, is that it's clear that, you know, backup quarterback is kind of not, it's not settled by any means.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the fact that they even worked out Jacob Eason
Yep.
when they already have four quarterbacks on the 90-man roster kind of shows you that they're still looking at things and evaluating things and everything like that. So,
Yep.
it's that one is perhaps we have more to talk about on that subject.
Mayhaps. Just maybe. Um, lost my train of thought. Excuse me. I think that's it from LaFleur and Goody. They're thinking about adding another kicker, depending on how it goes with Anders Carlson. A little sneak peek into training camp since it fits in here quite nicely. Um, Anders Carlson today in the first day of training camp, 5 for 6. Missed from like 45, I think, but hit 5 of them, I think, all around 40 yards. So I think into the wind was his miss as well. We need to in Green
Into the
Bay today.
wind. Yeah.
No shortage of leg from Anders Carlson. You got to stop with the little hand gestures.
Sorry.
You're good. You're good.
Playing paper football.
Goody did not bring back or did not rule out bringing back Mercedes Lewis as well, saying if things change fast that they could bring him back, which I'd be a huge fan of. Like Josiah DeGuara, again, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. Talk about training camp stuff, but Josiah DeGuara was the first recipient of a pass today from Jordan Love, so take that with a gigantic grain of salt and his importance into the offense, and
He's at least running with the
he's running
ones.
at the once. And while I'm not a fan of him particularly, I think it's really tough to roster 4 tight ends, and I just I think I'd rather keep Musgrave and Kraft to go with Mercedes Lewis and have a not play not have a 12 personnel thing, but then give those 2 rookies a chance to learn from Mercedes Lewis on how to block, then keep Josiah. Like that's we're getting ahead of ourselves. I'm just not the highest on Josiah DeGuara.
Yes, I understand. Certainly understand.
Yeah.
I don't want to. Again, I think this
It's
we
it's
might have
it's
to
really
expound
early.
more.
It's really
It's
early.
really early, but it is also. I think now that we are here, and as much as I'm like, I want Luke Musgrave to be the Packers tight end of like the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And that was another thing too. Reading. various things. Rob Domowski, in one of his many great pieces to kind of ramp up into training camp, uh, floated out some belief in the Packers organization that Musgrave has star potential,
Mm-hmm.
which, kind of, I guess, is implied when you take him with the second round pick and all that stuff.
Right.
But it does show you like it's gonna be very different to like how we
Right.
thought of tight ends for the last however many years since Jermichael
I was
Finley.
just gonna say since Michael Finley,
It's really Finley. Maybe,
maybe Jimmy Graham, maybe
oh yeah. Well, Jimmy Graham, I thought it was like, oh yeah, he wasn't good in Seattle. Maybe he'll capture it in Green Bay. He did not.
he wasn't so bad. I don't
Um,
think he was terrible. He had like he was more flashes in the
no, but
pan.
he
He wasn't
just
New Orleans Jimmy
that's the
Graham,
thing.
and he
You
wasn't
just think
Seattle
of
Jimmy
him as
Graham.
that.
He
Yeah.
wasn't that with the Packers. Yeah,
It was a very different experience.
most certainly. Um, I guess we'll jump right into the training camp news and things like that. But before we do, the Packers released Jeff Cotton, who was placed on the PUP list on Friday and signed um, Sam Houston State wide receiver Cody Crest or Chrest. Pick your pronunciation. Just a little anecdote. Might have the squarest head known to man. Man's
Let
head
me see it.
is legitimately a square. Um, played
Oh yeah, that is he's a Roblox. Jesus.
played what looks to be, sorry, my apologies, two full seasons at Harvard, one in 2016, one in 2019, and then he played 3 seasons at Sam Houston State. So he played 7 years of college football. Did not see game action in 2017 and saw action in one game in 2018. But for his 2022 stats, had a pretty solid year. Outside of his first 2 games, he had catches of 4, 4, 2, 10, 5, 5, and 3. Only 2 touchdowns, but in a October game at Utah Tech, had 10 receptions for 154 yards. So obviously, you guys can do your own conclusions about the type of product he was going against, playing for Sam Houston State, going against teams like Eastern Kentucky, Abilene Christian, Southern Utah, Stephen F. Austin, things like
Oh yeah.
teams like that. But clearly a grit guy for a receiver that played for 7 years in college. So you kind of hope he's putting up those numbers, having more experience than literal 18-year-olds. But they signed him. We'll see what he can do. It's ultimately the last wide receiver spot that they'll probably have with the team. By the time we make next week's pod, he might not even be with the team, depending on
Yeah.
how they go for it. But
Did you mention his RAS score in 40?
no, but he is a prototypical. I didn't mention it, but I saw it. He's a prototypical wide receiver that the Packers signed. If you want to go into it,
9.77 RAS, 4.35 40-yard dash. The man is fast.
faced,
Yeah, fast.
faced. Um, so we'll see if he has any sort of use. He'd have to beat out like Toure, Dontavian Wicks, Grant DeBose, a lot of other people to make a roster spot and be useful. Because like even as like a special teamer is kind of like what I'm getting at is that if he's gonna be a special teamer, he still has to have that sixth spot as a wide receiver, and I don't think they're gonna give that to him. He might be a practice squad guy, but
Yeah, certainly.
I don't see him being a actual like rostered guy.
That's the thing too, is that there is a lot of competition for that six rush spot,
A lot of competition.
and it's not guaranteed that Grant DuBois, who I believe
Had a back injury. That's what he missed throughout
I was
the
gonna say they
offseason.
finally kind of
Said what was wrong.
made that known.
Yeah.
You know.
Um, officially, official, going into the training camp news. The starting ones with the offense. This is where I get excited. This is where I want to talk a little bit. Jordan Love, Aaron Jones, Josiah DeGuara, Luke Musgrave for the tight ends, Romeo Dobbs and Christian Watson for the receivers. Across the line, your all-pro left tackle, Dave Bakhtiari. Your all-pro left guard, Elton Jenkins. Jason Myers, am I wrong? I feel like I'm
Josh.
wrong. Josh, I always.
Jason Myers, I believe, is a kicker for the
Yes, he is.
Jacksonville
Josh
Jaguars.
Myers, my apologies. John Runyon Jr. and drumroll, Zach Tom. Zach Tom is your starting right tackle with the offensive ones. We've been preaching it.
My
Jordan,
favorite Jimmy John's sandwich,
go ahead.
Zach Tom.
That's your favorite Jimmy John sandwich. The
Mhm.
one titled Zach Tom. Is it what number is that? I'm curious.
I believe that's 17.
Got it. Got it.
Would I have said his number that he wears on his jersey? Yeah, I forgot it.
50.
Forgot it.
50.
Oh, there we go.
It's a it's a
It's the
it's a
number
weird
50.
it's a weird offensive number.
Jimmy John's has a long menu.
Yes, they do. They just skip numbers like 19 through 49 ish.
So the,
Okay, enough Jimmy John stock. No free ads. Pay us Jimmy Johns to get that sort of coverage. Zach Tom, rookie last year, obviously played
at last.
all over, sort of filling in where he needed to. Getting around with the ones, I'm excited. Like I think this is going to be a very positive thing if it holds throughout the year. I think he got twos runs with at the guards position. I think ran like one
And
and threes
threes
with
with the
as
center.
centers as a center.
So they're like, hey, you're gonna plug up a lot of holes. That's
Yeah.
what he is.
But I really, really like the idea of having Zach Tom as a right tackle because then you
Yeah.
shore up that entire left side with two All Pros, and then let Zach Tom develop into being a great right tackle. Like, oh man, I'm excited. I really hope this sticks.
I certainly hope so too. We can focus all of our attention on Jordan Love, the wide receiver room, obviously Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, how that interplay works, but like nothing, the machine doesn't go without the offensive line being healthy, which is key, and not having, the first, what was it, 6, 7 weeks of, in part because they weren't healthy,
Mm-hmm.
um, of just trying to find combinations, of trying to find guys that would, be the right fit. Royce Newman, God bless him, but you're not a starter.
Right, right.
That kind of thing of like they have good depth pieces, but it's stuff of like things change quickly when they're out there the majority of the game rather than not.
Mm-hmm. No, I get it. Starters for the defense across the front: Preston Smith, Devonta Wyatt, Kenny Clark. Is it TJ or Chris Slade? I think it's TJ.
Chris.
Chris. I'm
Well, there's also okay, so that's it, there's Chris
uh,
Slayton with a Y.
yeah.
There's
L.
TJ Slayton with no Y.
It's no Y. So Chris
Yeah.
Slayton, the starter that way. Oh, I lost my tweet. There we go. And Justin Hollins filling in for the edge rushers of Rashawn Gary. So
Mm.
Quay Walker and Devondre Campbell over the middle for the linebacker spots, and then Jair Alexander, Rudy Ford, Donald Savage, and Razul Douglas in your secondary. I'm pretty good with it. Pretty good with it. Nothing like groundbreaking that I'm missing. Um, I think
Hollins is probably the biggest surprise, but
he's just kind of like the guy right now.
is it?
I don't think it's like an is it thing. I think it's just that they don't have Rashawn Gary.
No, but I think a lot of people would have thought, oh, they're gonna put Van Ness in there. And I think the
Yeah, I
seniority kind of wins out right now.
not to say that Lucas Van Ness didn't have a good first day at camp. From what I saw, just in anecdotes, like going uncovered, he has a lot of speed and a lot of athleticism to plug up holes. I just don't think you throw him in there against what would be, I think, Zach Tom. I'm trying to think. Yeah,
Or Bach.
no, I think they put Preston on Bakhtiari because you want your best rusher on the left side
Yeah.
to get to the backside of the QB.
Blindside.
Yeah. Regardless, I'm happy if Justin Hollins gets some good run, dude. Like
He's
he played well last year.
Yes, he did.
If he can
For
fill
a
in,
pass rush that really
needed
lost
it,
steam after. Yes, exactly.
that needed somebody there. So we won't go into too much of the training camp talk because obviously it's just day one, but just some general themes. Like we said, it was a windy day according to everybody there. Jordan Love went 7 for 14, I believe, on his passes in 11 on 11 drills. All of his passes were into the wind. So he had trouble with the deep ball because of that, but then had a lot of success over the middle and short. So I'm happy to see that that's where his success was. Like, obviously, you want to see success at any point, at any level of the field. But we talked about it last year, Jordan, that getting guys open over the middle is going to be like mission critical for this offense because they have so much speed to go over the middle, and that's kind of how the offense is run. Have Christian Watson go deep a few times and open up that center of the field to get either Aaron Jones, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, or whoever across the middle for a nice gain. Keep the offense moving. So if that deep ball takes time to develop for a year or two, I'm not too sad about it. Like he can still throw the ball deep on regular windy days or regular
Yeah.
air movement days, I guess is how you want to call it. But just having that confidence and accuracy over the middle is very, very good for a quarterback of his experience and just I don't want to say stature, that's the wrong word, but quarterback of his experience is how I'll say it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Christian Watson had a couple drops. That was kind of disappointing. So it might just be first day training camp. Again, not putting a lot of whole lot of stock into all this. It's literally day one. So just hopefully that improves over the course of camp. Predictably, defense was the best of the day. I think that's going to be pretty much a common theme throughout training camp, Jordan.
Yeah. I again that is the more known side of the ball. Uh,
A lot more years of football on that side of the ball, despite having.
and as we talked about with like the opening, you know, I guess training camp lineup, whatever you want to call it,
Mm-hmm.
it's all kind of like those are the bedrock names. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of unpredictability there. The only positions is okay, your second pass rusher opposite of Preston Smith, and then it's the safeties. You know, even LaFleur was talking about it this week of like they just want to see the top two guys emerge from that. Even though that it's by far the probably the weakest position of the roster, they feel
Mm-hmm.
comfortable with that. So yeah, I think defense it's honestly probably going to mirror what we heard a lot about from last year.
Right. And
Um,
hopefully you're saying it'll mirror a lot from last year in training camp.
yeah, I think the difference is the offense. It's rather than going into it being like, oh, this is going to be they're not going to miss Devontae that much.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different experience of what the offense will be like.
Right. I think that's the biggest thing is that last year we were like, man, that this defense is stopping that offense. That's pretty impressive. Toward now it's like, well, yes,
And
of
then
course.
week eight was like, that defense is stopping this offense?
Right.
What?
Right.
Yeah.
As opposed to now it's like, well, of course that defense is defending and stopping this offense. There's a
Yeah.
combined like 16 starts across their specialists on the ends and the quarterback. So,
Yeah. The sooner that we can play actual football and that we don't have to reference last season
oh,
anymore,
I'm so excited.
I cannot wait for
I'm
it.
so excited. Um, Small note: Dontavian Wicks was blocking the hell out of some cornerbacks this practice. That's gonna be his bread and butter if he wants to make this team. Like that's not something we can shy away from for sure coming out of this first practice. Like if Dontavian Wicks wants to have a role in this team, it's going to be as a run blocker on the outside, and then seldomly getting passes and needing to make the most of those passes. But for sure, he needs to do his best Alan Lazard impression and just start blocking people on the outside, which I guess he's doing well so far.
Sign me up.
Yeah, I'm down to see some physicality out there.
Sticky Wixit.
Go for it if you want to make it happen. I'll
Thank you.
follow it. Um, I'm trying to remember if there's anything else that was really pressing. I guess the run defense was good today as well. That might be something that is as just because the Packers' run offense is going to be predictable from for the most part going into
Yeah,
this training camp. Um, but again, I'm not taking any stock in the run defense until I see it in a real game. I'm not taking
yeah.
anything really at face value with this defense until I see it in a real game, for the sole purpose that Joe Barry is still the defensive coordinator of my favorite team.
I think the other big note to follow is about David Bakhtiari. LaFleur said he'll have his own modified schedule. It's a fluid situation, and then he said, "Well, we know what type of player he is. He's proven himself. He's likely to be limited on Thursday following first practice." That is, I believe, from Zach Cruz of Packers Wire.
Mm-hmm.
So probably going to be a lot of just they're going to maintenance him, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Right.
Um,
This he doesn't need the reps. Like
no, that again, that's part of where they're coming from of having as much offensive linemen as they do, and the different combinations that they can have, and
right.
see what they have beyond Bakhtiari, because you know this is probably going to be his last camp in
Maybe.
Green Bay.
Yeah.
I think contractually, I think that's where,
Contractually, it's probably how that goes. Yeah.
yeah,
But what do you do? But I think that is like the right course of action. No need to have him have a full camp
no,
workload wise.
and it's July.
It's just July. Like we've got time.
Yes, a lot of time.
Um, that kind of wraps it up. Biggest thing that I took away from camp today: the bike tradition is still the cutest thing to happen in football. Like I saw so many cute
Do other
videos.
teams do this? Then no, they don't. Right?
Some of them do, but they copied the Packers.
Oh, of course, we're
Like
trendsetters.
that's right. But this has happened for a while, like a long, long time.
Oh
But
yeah,
I
oh
think
yeah,
I think others have done this. Like I think I might have seen the Titans do it last year or something. But it's like entirely dependent on where your practice field is in relation to like
yes,
everything else. Like the Vikings practice out in the middle of nowhere, and like their facility is attached to the field, like most
yeah,
places are. They don't walk publicly anywhere. But with the Packers, if you haven't been to Green Bay, which I'm guessing most of you who listen to this podcast have, Lambeau is across the street from HQ Field. Take the bikes from the kids, ride them down with them to HQ Field, get off it. I know that made it sound like they steal the bikes from the kids. They don't steal the bikes from the kids.
no, they don't. No,
The
they don't.
kids
It's a
offer their
willing,
bikes.
yeah, it's a
Offer their
willing trade.
bikes. Please ride my bike. It's very adorable. Saw another one of Lou Nichols signing an autograph for a little boy. Just like, oh, melted my heart. Just, I love that tradition. It's really, really cool.
America's team.
That's right. That's right, Dallas.
Suck it, Jerry.
Screw you, Cowboys. Alrighty. That just about does it for this Packers pod. Jordan, do you have anything else before we get into promos?
No, I'm very my endorphins, or just whatever, it's kicked up over the last couple of days. Of just like it's here.
Your
Packers.
football mood.
My football mood.
Endorphins,
Uh,
I think, kind of works,
I
but
don't know. I don't know the body. I'm not Rohan.
Dr.
I'm not a
Rohan,
doctor. I'm not Dr. Rohan.
Dr. Rohan,
Um,
MD. That's just a joke. I'm sorry, Rohan.
but I'm very excited. There's a lot. I like the fact that there is a lot of uncertainty with this training camp.
Oh, it makes it so
Like,
exciting.
someone having a good camp could change, for better or worse, the outlook of this team this year. That's how things are. It's not like, okay, you got Aaron Rodgers under center. Obviously, we were without Devontae last year, but like
Hmm.
there was different things that were, as much that was, there were big changes, but there was still a lot that was the same. Now it is very, very different,
Right.
and I just like it. I like not knowing what it's going to be like. And I think
Hmm.
that's you know there could be positives taken away from that too.
Hmm. Good. Good, good, good. Oh, I'm excited. All right. Promo time, folks. As always, you can find me and Jordan on Twitter, or X as it's stupidly called now, on at Numac is known, at Jordan Tresky. You can follow the Talk of the Tundra Twitter account, as we'll be doing a lot more tweeting now that this is going, now that training camp is happening. Um, at at Packers GSPN on Twitter, as well as on Instagram. You can check out Watch GSPN. Um, the always hardworking Ty Windish is working on videos and graphics for the Instagram account, and you'll see some stuff from Talk of the Tundra over there quite soon. So stay tuned over there. Go give us a follow. We would really appreciate it. Um, Go check out the Eurostep boys, Ty and Rohan. They're still grinding all the Bucks news, talking about summer league stocks with Marjam Beauchamp. I don't know why I said it like that. I think I'm just tired. Andre Jackson Jr. and the other young kids for the Milwaukee Bucks, and also the Dame Millard and James Harden sort of slop from this NBA offseason. You can check out Adam McGee and Andrew Snyder on Make Time for This. They sort of junk drawer pop culture pod that they run. My apologies. Last few weeks they've done one on the bear. I'm just about done with it. The fishes episode gave me the most anxiety I've had in a very long time, and I didn't want to be
Damn
part of it
right.
any longer. Probably the most anxiety I've ever had since season one, when they did the one episode. I forget its name, but everyone knows who's seen it knows what I'm talking about. Um, but also did
My
a
life.
right Jordan's real life. Did a two-part episode. Only part one is released right now, of Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, which I heard is very good. You know what, Jordan? Mission Impossible, I think this is 7. I'm starting to
Yeah.
think the mission might be possible. I've got a hunch.
I think you might be barking up the right tree, which Tom Cruise is probably climbing up in the next Mission Impossible.
Just maybe. The tree is actually the tree from Avatar, the tree of life, and just like, shh. That's the sound you make when you climb trees. Tree of Life might also be from Animal Kingdom and Disney. Just, well, yep, no comments. We'll just pass on it like I didn't act really dumb for there for a second. Um, but you could also check out Adam McGee and Andrew Snyder on Cruising for a Bruising, the podcast about your first place Milwaukee Brewers as of 10:18 p.m. on July 26, 2023. A 2-1 series victory over the Cincinnati Reds, shutting them out again today after Freddie Peralta's beautiful 13 strikeout performance. Didn't get the W, unfortunately, though, because the Brewers decided not to score runs until Elvis Peguero was in the game. So, alas, go check out all of the Brewers news from Andrew and Adam, particularly Sultry Sal Frelick making his debut, as
Oh
well as
man.
just the general news from them. Mr. Tresky, did I forget anything?
No, no, I think that's it.
Sweet. All right, folks. We will be coming back at you again next week. We're getting into the cadence of having more episodes per week as we ramp up towards the season. Training camp battles, general news, all that good stuff. So, like I said, go check us out on gspn.info for all the links to all the things that you could possibly want. Rate 5 stars and leave a review on Spotify, Apple Pods, all that kind of stuff. No more Stitcher. If you're one of the 6 Stitcher listeners that exist in the world, find the new app. That's no more. They're shutting down. Come join us on Spotify, gang. And Jordan, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.